Hello and welcome back to our live conversation series, today talking about rethinking education. My name is Ana Maria Zamponia. I'm a co-founder of Repensando and representative of the New York City Architecture Biennial in Latin America. Hello to all of the NYCAB community, Repensando and Steelcase community, those connected here in the live today, and those that will see this in a future recording. We are so excited to be here again today with Repensando in New York City Architecture Biennial and Steelcase, where to elaborate on our community, where what we do at Repensando is to expand our knowledge on the most relevant issues today and partnering with important institutions and professionals on a global scale. We promote these themes through our activities and events like this live conversation today, and we invite you to join the community and continue participating on repensando.com. Today, we partner with Steelcase Learning to further discussion on rethinking education, a theme we've been addressing for the last couple of months and will continue through October. At the end of this conversation, we'll open the space for question and answers, so please send your questions in the chat, and I will be prompting our guests to answer them. I would like to invite our guest speakers to turn their cameras on, Marisa Sergnese and Kelly Cramton. Hello, welcome.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for being here. It's an honor to have you both today. And thank you to Steelcase Latin America for putting us all together and for promoting this. So we will begin our presentation on Steelcase Learning and what you have to share. All right, welcome. So for years, Steelcase Learning has been leading the industry with award-winning product designs for active learning classrooms. Their products and spaces have been embraced by learners and educators alike for their ability to promote well-being, inspire achievement, and foster success within and outside of the classroom. Marisa and Kelly are here with us today to share with you an overview of Steelcase Learning business, who they are, how they approach their work, what they do, and how they can help you. I will briefly introduce them and then we'll begin. So Marisa Sergnese, welcome.
Thank you.
She has over 25 years experience working in a variety of educational settings as a teacher, consultant, adjunct faculty member, school administrator. As a learning strategist, her focus is on designing, engaging, and inclusive learning sprints to support educators' attention to the use of physical space to enhance opportunities for meaningful, authentic student learning experiences. She's instrumental in networking educators both nationally and internationally to advance growth mindset and skill development and research projects. And she's currently with Steelcase Learning. Kelly Cramton, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Hi. Kelly is experienced in global marketing with a demonstrated history of working in the furniture industry. She has a master's in business focused in management, economics, finance, and sustainable business. She led the product development team of Tenure, a seating collection that won 2022 Best of Neocon Goals in Education Solutions category. Welcome, Kelly, and please tell us a little bit about why you both are here and what is it you do with Steelcase Learning.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
At Steelcase Learning, we're passionate about helping to create and support the conditions for lifelong learning. So we design and manufacture furniture with the primary intent of promoting that idea of lifelong learning in environments that inspire, stimulate, and motivate students of all ages to really thrive. And as a business, we've been doing this for over 100 years.
Wow, amazing. Marisa, did you want to add something?
Yeah, so I am a counterpart to Kelly as the educator on our team. And, always have been working to embrace that sense of wonder that people have, that curiosity as people come into a learning environment. And so just really motivated by creating these spaces where we can help people feel like they belong, where they can get inspired and really thrive.
Wonderful, exciting.
So, our research-based foundations in education and active learning spaces, they really enable us to serve all levels of learning. So we work from the very young through to post-secondary program. And, in everything we do, we focus on engaging minds and activating the spaces that can really prepare people to thrive, not just within, but also beyond that classroom environment, and grow to love learning always. So, we know engaged learners are more successful, and being engaged really allows for a deeper, richer learning experience. And, the best way to engage minds is by activating all the spaces where teaching and learning happen.
Okay, wonderful. Kelly, you had referenced a learning framework, and if you could tell us a little bit about that. That would be
Yes,
wonderful.
I'd love to. So this Venn diagram is a simple representation of that framework, that learning framework. And having leveraged our research from over the years, active learning has really become the foundation of all of our solutions. So our learning framework takes on a holistic approach that recognizes and supports the interdependencies of pedagogy, technology, and space. And we use this as a strategy that influences the environments we solve for. So as Marisa mentioned, from classrooms to libraries, cafes, media centers, corporate training centers, faculty offices, admin spaces, and all of the spaces in between, addressing the idea of lifelong learning and various learning environments wherever learning may take place. So pedagogy is purposely placed on the top of our framework, as it really should be the driving force in learning spaces. And then technology and space-related factors should be considered. And it's really important that these three factors be considered together and planned for together to be the most effective in building a healthy system and ensuring the most efficient and scalable investment as well.
Okay, fascinating. I love to see these models, how everyone puts them together. I'm interested to know exactly how you do engage and adapt this framework when you're addressing challenges related to the built environment with schools.
Well, we're actually going to talk a little bit about how we engage with schools and address those challenges within some of these slides. But we really start with our research, and we start by meeting with customers and clients and school administrators and students, and we observe those students, and we really help to uncover what are their driving design factors and how might we address some of those factors within the spaces that we're designing. And this framework helps us to approach that conversation and work with our customers and with students around the world.
Now, if you look at this framework, if we just go back one moment and look at how it's pulled apart, we approach, as Kelly said, this active learning ecosystem holistically. So as part of the building master plan, as well as part of the learning master plan. So when we look at pedagogy, when we look to work with our clients, we look not only at how it can be enlarged and expanded upon when it's complemented by an assortment of digital and analog tools, but also how that technology is a tool that enhances the instructional strategies that instructors are selecting and implementing. And, that technology is embedded into the built environment, and it extends the experience, especially today, beyond the physical parameters of the space. So it's really important, as Kelly said, to assess and design that space accordingly, because, the built environment, it can enable a different pedagogical approach that really empowers students with agency, that nurtures a different level of responsibility, a different level of ownership for learning. And that's, just embracing different behaviors that impact the type of interactions as well as relationships that support that sense of belonging, that sense of meaningfulness and authenticity in the teaching and learning process.
Okay. So fascinating. So again, do you have a specific way you apply these to schools and challenges that you, maybe your lessons you've learned from them, or what can we learn from the application of this?
Absolutely. A successful learning environment, it provides support for more than just students. So when we focus on students, that's with a lens in terms of a focus on the knowledge and skills that have been identified, but also well-being, personal development, and a mindset for lifelong learning. So we'll often look at what's the curriculum that's being used? How do we align that pedagogy with the built environment so that we, can behave differently, can support those different interactions that we talked about. When it comes to faculty, a lot of our work there, there are lots of conversations, observations, where we look at what does it really mean to shift to student-led learning, and what those skills are that are needed to support this shift and keep pace with the digital transformation that's happening without sacrificing our own personal well-being, because we know that there's a lot of stress and anxiety for many faculty. And then, for schools, when we look at working with administrators and thought leaders, we're really focused on, many people are focused on the budget that they have to work with, their brand. And so, really looking at the factors to scale active learning environments so that we're able to ensure financial stability and a good reputation that helps people not only recruit new students, but also retain their students and faculty.
Super important. So I would like to get more into this human-centered design process, and maybe some of the products you've developed for human-centered design.
Absolutely. So at Steelcase, as we've been talking about, we're always learning, and we're learning about people, we're learning about their behaviors, their biggest challenges, all within the context of this built environment. So as a human-centered organization, it's really natural that people are at the center of everything we do. And the way that we remain people-centered and evidence-based is by observing and learning every day from teachers and students. So as a company, we've invested more than about $110 million in research, design, and development activities over the past 3 years. And we employ focused researchers and strategists. In our Steelcase learning business employs a dedicated research team that works with leading K-12 and higher educational institutions around the world, conducting primary research and secondary research, and then prototyping and testing with those institutions. And then what we do is we take those insights gained from those observations and research, and we directly translate that into the applications and into product design. So we're building products that last and designing solutions to support learning today and also well into the future.
Wonderful.
And if you go to the next slide, I can show you some of those products to kind of give some examples of ways in which those observations and insights have been translated into actual solutions. So since our inception as an education-focused business, we've designed and launched a variety of products. So from desks to tables, chairs, storage, whiteboards, lounge systems, technology, and even power solutions. So these are snapshots of some of our core products. And we've worked really hard to offer a portfolio that addresses all aspects of the learning environment, as well as adapts to various modes of learning and methods of teaching. So for example, when we developed Node, our seating line, and our verb tables of collection of tables and whiteboards, we asked ourselves, how might we really enable and encourage movement for on-the-fly reconfigurations in active environments? while also keeping students and teachers in the flow of learning. So that was at the core, the central question, and at the core of what we did in the development of those products specifically, and designing around this idea of active learning. And then you'll see within the feature set that those insights have really played themselves out within the design concepts. And then with the development of products like Buoy and Oodle stools, we considered the wide range of emerging postures that needed support in these active environments. So we designed those stools to swivel, to rock, to tilt, and then really adjust to different heights based on how we saw the students moving within the space and the type of support that they needed. So we responded to that through the design of those products specifically.
Is this are these the blue ones in the left corner, or
They are.
the blue ones? Okay.
Yep. And then you'll see in the right corner, that's our thread power solution. And we developed that after we observed these active and mobile students tethered to the perimeter of a space, just so they could have access to power for their devices. Or we saw students tangled in a web of extension cords by just way of trying to remain somewhat mobile. So we thought, okay, these active learning spaces are active, not just students being active. So how can we make the spaces super active? And we designed Thread, the power solution, to address this and bring power off the floor up to the student from any point within the space. So those are just some examples of how we're thinking about product development and innovation to enhance both the student and the educator experience.
That's challenging because you're designing almost for uncertainty and movement and adaptability, right? So
absolutely. And then thinking about what's next. What are these future learning environments going to look like? As Marisa talked about, the integration of technology and space and how those overlap and really need to be planned for together. And then how might our solutions help support the intersection of those two things? So it is challenging, it's a fun challenge.
The way that I guess Steelcase learning would define or measure a success in a built environment, is that constantly changing, Marisa?
Oh, absolutely. And actually, just if we pause for a moment before I answer that for you, that portfolio that Kelly showed, that process of creating and validating these products, Ana Maria, when you talked about, it's challenging knowing, what comes next. Well, we have the opportunity to collaborate with an extensive network of research partners. You see them listed here, and not just traditional universities, independent research institutions, as well as corporate research organizations and industrial research consortia. So that also allows us to look at, how do we work together to leverage tools that they might already have, or it inspires something brand new. I'm going to speak a little bit about our learning environment evaluation tool here in a moment, that really help us measure different factors that are critical to these environments, and specifically the kind of engagement and the types of relationships that are enabled in these spaces.
So this is really real. What you were talking about before, the framework of interacting between the pedagogy, the technology, the institutions, is something that's ongoing, and that you work with people who are always advancing the subject, right?
Absolutely. And, we believe in sharing our research with others. And, Kelly mentioned earlier, we have a dedicated group of researchers at Steelcase. They're part of what we call our Workspace Futures group. And so our current research that's completed by our Workspace Futures group, as you see it listed here, it covers a range of education and workplace topics. One informs the other, and it's really important for us also to understand, what are employers looking for as students are going into the work world, so that we know that, we are attempting to support learners as best we can for that mindset, as well as that skill set that's going to allow them to be successful.
Very important. So the impact that you continue to have with educational institutions, do you measure that, or what does that look like?
Yes, so, over the past few years, Steelcase Learning has partnered with not just, elementary schools, middle schools, but high schools and higher education institutions to really understand how teaching and learning is evolving, right? And how smarter, more active environments can help. So together with a cohort of over 80 very diverse institutions, serving, as you see here, the numbers, thousands of students at all levels, we studied what's possible, and we surfaced some very exciting results. And so what we did was we developed a tool called the Learning Environment Evaluation. And that research for that tool, it was conducted from the spring of 2016 through the spring of 2020. We just updated it again. The pandemic did not stop us. It still allowed us to collect some data. And if you move to the next image here, what we learned from this research was that, in the active learning spaces, students reported significantly higher levels of movement throughout a lesson, communication with their peers, as well as with their instructors. The more creative type activities that they were able to engage in, critical thinking activities became more prevalent, as well as those opportunities for collaborative learning. So, there were a series of questions for both students and instructors. But, here we're focused on those results from students. So what students reported to us was notable gains, as I said, in movement, communication, creativity, critical thinking, and collaboration. But they compared their time in two types of classrooms. And so 79% of the students we surveyed reported that their experience in the environment designed for active learning was somewhat or much better than in the traditional classroom. So, we did survey them in their traditional environment, and then again, in that new environment, between 6 to 8 weeks after they'd had time with the new tools the environment offered.
Yeah, that's really important feedback. If it's, the space, the tools, all of the things that you're mentioning, right? Interesting. So I think our community, we have a couple questions, but before we get to them, I think we would all want to know about how people can leverage what Steelcase Learning offers in reimagining their teaching and learning spaces.
So, well, we look at education. I think we can all agree on this. It's a really dynamic process that varies by time and place. The fact that we are human-centered in our approach allows us to take the insights gained from our observations and research and directly inform our continued thinking in product and space design. So it's crucial that we remain relevant as a business and have a portfolio that evolves with the dynamic needs of emerging education trends. So as we look at our portfolio and think about business as a force for good, sustainability is another lens that we use to drive growth and innovation, and not only within our product offering, but also within our greater business model. So it impacts the communities we explore and how we design our products, as well as guides our global investments that we make in communities and diversity, inclusion, in our people, and in helping our customers and partners become more sustainable. So that's one way. And then Marisa can build on that as well.
Absolutely. We take a consultative approach. Of course, we love to, and we need to observe the environments that we're discussing, but then also, really understanding we have a good handle, both from primary and secondary research what the trends are when we talk about, evolving trends in education at a national, global level. But we really, we do a lot of discovery exercises with clients to really understand what are the trends in their community. And how do those trends align to national trends, more global trends, and really seeking to understand what are those problems, those gaps that they want to solve for, that they know are going to make them better in supporting students in the learning experience that they're undertaking in their institutions. So very consultative in that regard, with a variety really of well, it's what we like to call a series of engagements, where they may be conversations, focus groups, workshops, to really support that design thinking methodology towards responding to those problems that they've identified.
Okay, that's really interesting. This shows, I mean, I don't know how many years that this has been measured over time. This slide that shows the impact of the products and the certificates. I don't know, is there a number on that? How many years? Or?
Well, we've been a business for about a focused learning group for about 12 years, but we've been looking at education for even longer than that. We just started having our own product development arm about 12 to 14 years ago. So specifically focused on education. So dedicated engineers, dedicated designers, dedicated researchers, dedicated project managers, dedicated strategists. So we have a real deep focus in education with that dedicated team over the last 12 to 14 years.
It sounds like a real resource.
And having measuring from that.
Right.
And, Anna Maria, when you ask about, what are some of those things that, we offer, as you can imagine, there are a lot of opportunities for us to engage with a variety of audiences. So architects, designers, school thought leaders and decision makers, community members. But what we like to do is, identify the audience that we're working with. And then we can help that audience, those personas, in terms of one, learning. So by sharing our latest research and insights, it helps that discovery awareness of the knowledge that people need moving forward. Second, sources of inspiration. We love getting people inspired by seeing our learning spaces. So we do a lot of virtual tours in our different spaces. And then third, discover more. We help people discover more by engaging in those workshops or consulting engagements that I spoke of earlier. And then the fourth thing is really to look at how we co-create together. How do we design solutions for and with education partners, as we identify those problems that people want to solve for, or those gaps that they want to solve for, we love to engage in, design charrettes with multiple stakeholders, having those conversations that give the architects and designers that information that they need to really design some of the most innovative and creative ways to respond to those needs that people have.
Interesting. So it's really probably the best to get involved early with you and work through the whole process together, as opposed to coming in at the end with just the product, right?
Absolutely. And it's interesting that you say that. I mean, obviously, we're most successful when we get in early and are able to support in whatever way that looks like. Sometimes it's just that collaboration or conversation with the A&D firm. It really depends, right? And oftentimes, we do get called in after someone's had an installation And, things aren't any different. What are we doing wrong? Did we purchase the wrong things? What happened? And so it's taking a few steps back. And oftentimes that means looking at, just training the people and supporting them, reskilling with what they need to empower them to have confidence and comfort in those new environments. And that look at, okay, how do we iterate upon this? So we really can get involved at any time, but earlier is always better.
Great. Well, before we start with our questions, I'll pass the next slide and we'll talk about maybe how within Latin America, maybe we can offer contact to local providers, or if there is, direct contact to Steelcase learning through the Americas. So maybe Kelly wants to talk about that. Marisa, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm not sure what happened to Kelly's audio.
Okay.
Yes,
her audio. Okay.
This slide here. So thank you very much for having us. This slide here is intended to offer some of that contact information in specific regions that are represented here. Kelly mentioned earlier, we're a global group, so we really leverage the expertise of all of the people on our team around the world. So, we are very good at networking and connecting one another. And so just to reach out, you have this information. It really doesn't matter who you reach out to, but here you have a specific contact that can direct you in your particular country, in your particular region.
Okay, great. Very interesting. Actually, one of the questions is where can I find more information about your research? So would it be through one of these links?
Yep. So actually, if you go to our website, and the link is here, it's you can find that in the category under education. You're able to look for research, look for spaces, whatever that information is that you're looking for.
Okay. Okay, great. So I'm going to start with the questions here. We all have, we can stay with the last slide so if anyone wants to reference it. The biennial and Bertanto have both presented the notion of learning through play. And we talked about this, we'll talk about it again in one of the live conversations. Maybe this is a question for Kelly, who's in product development. Has this notion informed any of the new products or furniture lines in Steelcase?
Absolutely. Well, everything we design is coming from a place of observation, research, insights, translation. So that design thinking mindset absolutely plays into every product that we develop. I don't know if that answered the question. I didn't quite hear the first part, but.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, just the concept of play. You answered it perfectly. I just think that the stool that you brought up was really playful. So
absolutely. Well, we find, students need to have fun and they need to feel inspired. And we as adults need the same thing. Marisa touched on how might we, motivate and also address the needs of well-being within students. And I think we think about play within the context of that well-being sphere as well.
Okay, that's great.
Hey, Kelly, I don't know if you want to mention at all that portfolio of products that also addresses the younger ages, as well as some of the more loungy furniture that we have for different behaviors.
Yeah, we do. We do have as part of our Steelcase learning family, we have a brand, Smith System is the name of the brand. And they really cater to that K-5 audience. And you'll see there's a lot of playful, really lively, not only colors, but also within the product solutions, there's shapes and heights and variation in terms of different postures that they can support. So that brand for Steelcase Learning is one that really encompasses this idea of play through through color and shapes and size and scale and, different types of solutions to address lounge as well.
And what's fun about those products too is the way that they link together to make different shapes, as Kelly was saying, like, a caterpillar formation with some of the desks, or even, with the oodles, how they can stack so that you've got that height adjustability there, or height variance there, depending on, how people are connecting to one another, whether they're sitting on the floor, it's more playful than at a table setting or whatever that might look like.
Were there some of the products from Smith Systems on the slide that we showed?
There was a table line, and there was also the oodle. The oodle stool was developed by Smith System.
Oh, okay.
So
let me pull
you
that
had
up
some
again.
seating on there as well.
And again, as you reach out to the contacts that you saw on that one slide, we can go much deeper into showing some of that product that you may have interest in. Because there's also some really great lounge furniture that I don't know that we had many images of here, that creates for some really fun zones within different spaces.
Okay. Which slide did you want to go back to, Marisa? The product?
I know,
slide?
just this one here with the contact
the
information, I
contact.
think is great. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. We have someone asking about future furniture trends Steelcase is working on. Top secret, probably.
Well, we can't show our cards completely, but I will say that we are really, really interested in this idea of social learning. So that's an area that we're deeply involved in. Also, we're looking at high flex environments and hybrid collaboration. I think not only is that important in education environments, but we're finding it very important in our corporate environments as well. So we're really heavily investing in and very interested and engaged in principles surrounding hybrid collaboration and high flex environments.
Yeah, and our most recent research on digital transformation is just being published, and so again, you'll have that available this fall, and that definitely is informing a lot moving forward.
Is that published on your website, or do you have to sign up for a newsletter? How does that
It is. Great question. It is published on the website. Your contact in your region can support not only giving you that research, but we also do a number of CEUs and different engagements that you may wish to engage in. And I know that we have, architects and designers on this call. And so there is credit for those hours with those types of engagements also. So there's a variety of material that supports that research that you can take, apply, and leverage yourselves.
Great, that's very useful. Okay. So one other question, do you have a star product, maybe a top seller that because of its impact on the classroom?
I would say that our Node seating line is our iconic, is an iconic product for us. It was the first of its kind. It was the first seating collection designed for active learning. And that was about 12 years ago, and it still remains very, very relevant today. So there's that. They all sort of play together in a really great way. The Verb collection of tables and whiteboards, again, designed for active learning environments, designed to empower students, designed to empower educators. And that's still obviously very relevant today. And we continue to build off of that portfolio and invest in those product lines. But then we have also launched a couple of new products. We have an Albrook table collection that is a collection of organic and rectilinear shaped tables that are still addressing, active environments, but it's more about the student movement in the environment and less about the furniture movement. So there's a really interesting story behind the Albrook table collection. And you can view that on our website and read more about it. But that's one that's recently launched. And then we've also have a new seating line launching this fall. And that's tenor, which you mentioned at the beginning, won a Best of Neocon Gold Award for education solutions.
Mhm.
And the tenor is really designed for student comfort. It's designed to be stackable, really multi-purpose as
Mhm.
education environments become more multi-purpose and need to really
Mhm.
quickly adapt based on, different real estate needs and needs of the facility managers and the teachers as well. So the tenor is a really interesting one as well into our portfolio. It really plays nicely with the node seating collection. They play well blended together. So those I would say tenor and Elbrook are the latest and the sort of the newest, but Verb and Node still remain really, really relevant. And we have a work lounge that I still find really exciting. It's called Brody Work Lounge. That again created a category of its own as a work lounge category. It's not quite seating, it's not quite lounge, it's not just a table, it's sort of an all in one. So that's another solution that again created its own category and is still really exciting for us and for a lot of our customers.
And I'd like to add to that. Like that's such a hard question to answer because our core family of products are just, speak as an educator, so much fun. And I think, the favorites are all about how they come together to support the kind of behaviors that people really want to evolve and nurture. So there are so many different pieces that fit together. It's like a puzzle, so putting a variety of seating with different tables together to support choice. But then what are some of those other things that really fit nicely in there, like the personal whiteboards add such a critical level or degree of engagement when we talk about things like making visible thinking more prominent in our teaching and learning environments. So it's just really looking at that portfolio and how do pieces come together to support the needs of such different learners.
Well, it's fascinating. For me, Steelcase has always been the forefront of change and adaptability, mobility. I mean, since I went to school until today, things have changed so much. And I think that what Steelcase does and has dedicated now for a long time is that research, the inclusion of all this knowledge now on neuroscience about how the active environment is really the most important, and your research also shows that. So I really thank you for all this information. And Kelly, if you had some concluding remarks, and then I'll wrap up our live together.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you again for your time today and to everyone that's watching. We hope our conversation has inspired you to think about Steelcase and think about leveraging the resources that we've shared. And again, as Marisa mentioned, but I do want to reiterate this, that we're connected as a global team and we're happy to engage our connections around the world to best help you.
Thank you so much, Marisa. It's been really a pleasure to talk with you. And Kelly, I don't know if Marisa, you want to say anything?
Yeah, I just, as I was looking at the countries listed on that slide, there are two that popped out with Guatemala and Mexico, where some of our core products that Kelly was talking about earlier, for example, with Node, they were two of the first really large whole institution installations that we had. And so when we talk about our research insights and observations, they're driven from that part of the world. So I think that's always really great to make those connections and know how close we are to some of these really innovative environments.
Absolutely. I've lived now in Latin America for 15 years, and I think Steelcase I've seen how it's become more and more kind of a brand name, a local name in offices and in classrooms and in many different kind of retail settings too. So it's definitely become a bigger network than when I first moved here 15 years ago. So that's definitely the work of all of these providers and all of the research that you and your team do. So really, thank you so much. So thank you to Steelcase Latin America for partnering with us. We hope to continue. For us, it was really important to do a session with Steelcase on education, because for me, it's just a reference for the region and for the industry. I invite the audience to continue with this conversation on education on the New York City Architecture Biennial platforms on Repensando. Join our community. We're doing a challenge based on play and coming up with a new product or a game that inspires learning. So that'll be closing at the end of September, and we'll have a winner by the end of October, hopefully. And that's also something we did with Steelcase Latin America. I'd like to have the community, invite them to join us on our next live, where we're talking with an architect from Denmark, Rosanne Bosk, on her new book, Play to Learn, on designing for uncertainty, which continues the theme. And that's it. So I really am, again, thank you both for being here. I thank Steelcase Learning and Steelcase Latin America, and it was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Take care.